I'm happy because I'm almost afraid that I'm going to be toothless, and I don't really want to do that. I've already got some tooth already removed, but the front teeth, I just need to have them on. But yeah, it's wonderful, and I've tried your recipe, and I use the cloves and the peroxide, and it's wonderful.
Yay! That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so
I'm so glad the device has helped you with
oh
your
my
tooth.
gosh,
That's
you know how
lovely.
before my neck I was always like this. Now I can straighten. I have no pain. My neck was always in pain, and I have no pain now.
Yay!
I mean, I'm just so happy. Yeah,
That's
I'm just
fabulous.
ecstatic. Yeah.
Aw, I'm so happy to hear that, my dear. Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate you.
Well,
And let's go ahead and move on and let me introduce Dr. Gloria. So I'm sure you guys know who she is. She is my partner here on all of these WoW calls and WoW Can Cook. I hope you guys caught our awesome, fun, silly, like WoW Can Cook show that we launched on Thursday. But Dr. Gloria has just so much experience, you guys, with she's a naturopath and a homeopath, and she had a culinary institute. She's a teaching doctor. She has just a huge resume. But today she's going to share one of our next desserts, or it's actually one of our new recipes that are coming down the pipe. And it's all about avocado. So, Dr. G, you want to tell them what you're going to tell them at the end? Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you can tell them later. You're muted.
Okay. Hello, everyone. If you read the article today, I hope it made you smile. I'm going to guac your world. And that means that I'm not going to make guacamole, but I'm going to rock your world with the dessert that is going to be the recipe for this tomorrow, right? And you'll see us cook it next Tuesday. Now it's not a new recipe. It's not one that I invented, but it's one that I modified. And if you love desserts like I do, but can't have the sugar or the starches, this is pure protein. You'll love it. And that's all I'm going to say till the end.
Awesome.
I'm gonna walk their walk their curiosity now. So
Awesome. It's so good, you
go ahead.
guys. Oh my gosh. I think I ate the whole thing in 2 days. It was just amazing. So, this whole WoW thing is all about habits. And thank you for sharing. Those of you who are, so many of you guys have made changes in the last 2 months. It's just so exciting for me. And so today, Christine, we're going to talk to her and we're going to talk about food habits for your homework after her interview. We're going to see what she suggests. So you guys all know Christine because she's on the admin team. She's been around since the very beginning. She's an OG when it comes to all things QHS. But what you might not have known is she is an expert in integrative health and wellness. And she has a unique focus on the influential connection between our thoughts, beliefs, and mental controls. She has dedicated her career to teaching and speaking on the transformative power of positive thinking and the mind-body connection. Christine has impacted the lives of countless individuals through her courses, workshops, and seminars. Her practical advice on how our quantum reality impacts our daily wellness and ability to continuously heal and inspire lifelong changes for those who attend her sessions. Her ability to to elucidate the intricate connections between our thoughts, emotions, and their profound influence on our health and healing processes. And I could just keep on going, but I know you guys want to hear her beautiful, angelic voice. And if you are not a part of KEY, which stands for integration, quantum integration is what the KEY program is, I highly recommend. So, Christine, why don't you unmute yourself and say hello?
Hello, everyone. Man, Tracy, you just made me feel like a superstar.
You are. You are. Awesome. So, Christine, I love your bio. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in this area?
I started because I was already dying. And I had been diagnosed with the type of multiple sclerosis that actually causes the organs to fail. And I started looking into, well, I didn't want to go out that way. So I didn't have a good prognosis. The doctors didn't give me much time. And I had small children and I wasn't willing to just leave them. So I started looking and I started doing all kinds of things. The regular medical stuff just didn't change anything. You know, the medications gave me some relief, but it didn't give me, and it didn't stop anything. And then one day I woke up and my body was just like vibrating so intensely. I felt like I was literally breaking apart on a cellular level, which was, it made me scream and cry and got me so scared. And I called my dad in the middle of the night, which was something I never did. And he said, Chris, actually he said Chrissy, because he calls me that when I'm my most upset. He says, Chrissy, go find yourself a Buddhist. I said, a Buddhist, Dad? What? My dad, my military Catholic dad, told me to go find a Buddhist? And the very next day, I was talking with my Girl Scout troop leader, or we were co-leaders, and I said, my dad said I need to find a Buddhist. She says, I'm a Buddhist.
Whoa.
And it kind of, and that's how the whole thing of alternative wellness started for me. Was I was handheld. People just kept showing up in my life, and the opportunities just kept presenting themselves to learn and understand more. And
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, it's interview time. Ask what you want to know.
So you're very spiritual and very connected. Was your dad always that way as well?
So that was a surprising thing. And I actually, for a minute, I thought about being angry at him that he never told me this part of his life. Because when I started telling him all the things I was learning and all the amazing stuff that was opening up to me, he's all, yeah, I understand. I do that. I know that. And I was like, what? I lived my whole life military Catholic, not spiritual. What the heck? And and I was like, but then it clicked. You know, if he'd have raised me that way, I wouldn't have had the same adventure. It would have been different because I would have learned through everybody else's processes. The way it happened is it forced me, universe has your back all the time. And the way I grew into my spirituality was led and guided in a way that I couldn't have imagined. And I remember asking in the beginning, because we all can ask and get answers. I said, "Well, why do I get this? Why do I get to have this journey this way?" And they said, "Because you asked." And that locked in. Okay, we are the creators of our own reality, which is a big important part of being able to get rid of food allergies and all of these other changes we're going to talk about. And if I had learned it the way other people present it, I might not have found my unique connection to all of this information. So I think the universe has our back. It's laid things out brilliantly for all of us.
So what was your first epiphany that you ran into when you were doing this research?
Let's see, the first one. Let's see, what would the first one be? It's easier for me to remember the stuff after my near death than it is for before my near death, as far as like how rapidly things changed. But before, it was the fact that meditation, which I'd never tried, never done, thought it was impossible. I went to a Buddhist meeting and heard Nam Myoho Renge Kyo sung. I mean, they're just chanting, but for me, it was a song. And my body, for the first time that I can remember, my pain stopped.
Wow.
And I was like, so that was a huge epiphany, because then I realized, oh, pain is different than I thought it was. Because if it could stop just from this frequency that I was experiencing, this connection to this intuition that everyone had around me, if that's all it took, then this was going to be easier than I thought. And it was going to be possible. See, before that, I saw it as impossible because the medical field wasn't getting me where I needed to go. And then suddenly I had this and it was easy.
So how soon after your dad said, go find a Buddhist, and you just so happened to have a co-Girl Scout leader? I mean, I know there's no coincidences, so that was a setup. But how soon after did you have that experience with the chanting?
I went, first she brought me a Butsudan and gave me, she set up, I forgot what they're called now because it's been years, but she set everything up for me in my home and sat with me for a week each day going through the chant and doing it with her. And then the second week she invited me to come in person. And so it was pretty quick.
Cool. So that was great. And then what next? What else happened to get you from here where you're just doing self-healing? I just kind of want to connect the dots to here where you're leading workshops and educating our members.
Oh, okay. So I started getting a lot of insights, intuition things. And I know we all have this, but when I was a kid, I used to say, "Oh, I'm just really smart. That's why I understand this." It never occurred to me that it was a different part of my brain, a higher part of myself that was giving me information. And let's see, where was I going? So I started listening more, and I started paying more attention to that this is real. These insights are real. And that was the next step. I got lost. Sorry, because I went too far into my memories.
That's okay. So you're starting to recover. You realize that by having these practices, these spiritual practices, you're able to release your pain. And then what happened?
And then I was going to a chiropractor. I had to go to a chiropractor daily just to get any relief prior to me awakening as I was doing. And I was driving to the chiropractor and I heard in my head, "Oh, we're so excited you're coming. We're going to learn something amazing today." And I was like, this is weird. So I started really listening to that. So one of my strongest things that I have that's natural is telepathy. And I can hear thoughts clearly. I can translate them into vocabulary. And a lot of us, we hear them anyway. You just have to learn to translate them into vocabulary accurately because we tend to do it with our brain. And when you use more of your intuition and your insight and your heart, then you're more accurate with your translations. So that was one. And then the very next week, I was going back and there was another, again, the message was so clear as day. And so the chiropractor office had witches, had Buddhists, had meditation specialists, that had all of these amazing things. And I kept hearing different people in the office each week. As I was driving there, something new would pop up. And I had a huge experience. I'm trying to remember the details right now. I'm so sorry. I'm all over the place, but it's so exciting to go back to these memories. I haven't gone back this far in so long to even think about it. And I had an insight into one of the chiropractors and what was going on in her life. And so when she put her hands on me, I started to tell her, "Hey, I heard you, and this was said to me." And she says, "Yes, that's right. That's right." And she started confirming. See, prior to that, I didn't get confirmations that this stuff was real. But this office had such a clear space for wellness that it was easy to now start opening up and sharing who I was. And so she decided that she would like to have a session, which I didn't know how to do anything yet. And then she said, "Well, can I come over?" Because I didn't have an office or anything even yet. And I said, "Yeah, sure. Come on over and we'll just talk about it." And she brought this. I want to tell this because it actually goes in today's topic. She brought over guacamole and chips and for us to snack on while we were talking. And I thought, "Oh, I don't like guacamole." Oh, but she was so kind to bring this over. I mean, I literally could not stand guacamole. And I told her that. And she says, "Oh, but this one's perfect. This is magical food. You're going to love this." And I just trusted her. And I took a bite and I go, "Oh my gosh, it was great." And we ate the whole tub, the two of us. We just ate the whole thing up. And she left the empty tub for me because I was like, "Oh, this is good. I've never liked guacamole. I always heard how good it was for you, but couldn't stand it." And so I went to the store the next day, bought the same bag of chips and the same guacamole, went back home, took a bite, and it was awful. This, I know, right? So Dr. Gloria I think has an understanding of what I'm about to say. This was the first time I realized how being in the frequency with somebody else who loves food, how it can impact our ability to connect to food in a way that we didn't previously have. And I started doing research from that moment about how does food and nutrition, how does it line up with the body? And I learned that 30% of the nutrition is lost just because of our beliefs of food. We're in the way of being able to allow the full value of the nutrition in because of what we think and what we feel and the frequencies that we're holding. And then I also learned that culturally, they did a study between two very distinct cultures, one Asian and one European, and they swapped recipes. Now, the recipes had basically the same ingredients, but the way you prepare it and you just the way you do it, they swapped the recipes, and the cultures did not like the food. They couldn't do anything with it. Their nutrition level dropped. Their digestive system changed. Now, these are the same ingredients. So how is that even possible? So cultural well-being, the way you live and grow and the way you interact with food and the way you see others interact with food changes, again, how your body handles it. So I love that Dr. Gloria and Tracy are doing these recipes and bringing this joy and this fun to it, because it's not just the recipe. It's the love you're putting with it. It's the frequency that you're imbibing in people when they connect to the recipe. And then when they do it, they're holding that space with you. And this is how frequency works. This is how it interacts in just our dietary and food choices even.
Interesting. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Gloria. You're muted. Okay.
I want to 1,000% validate what Christine just said. And most people that I've interacted with in my 45 years of being in healthcare would have never understood that. I mean, they used to look at people like my grandmother, who was very intuitive, strict Roman Catholic, so Christine can relate. And she thought it was something awful. It was like a curse, because she would say, your dad's going to have an accident tonight. I can feel it. I'll go, oh, Mom, it's just, calm down. You just had a nightmare. No. And the phone would ring an hour later. My dad had an accident. My father was an alcoholic, and he had several accidents. So what she's saying is so true, but nobody has connected that I've ever, connected with in all my travels around the world the way Christine says it, because it makes sense. And you are what you radiate. If you're cooking and going, oh, God, I got to cook dinner. All right, I'll make this recipe. It's completely different, isn't it, Christine, than saying, I'm going to make this and I'm going to love it. And this is, for me, it's therapy. I'm away from the computer. I don't take my cell phone into the kitchen. It's my way of disconnecting from the world and doing something good for myself and for the people that I love that I'm cooking for. Am I saying it the way you would interpret it?
Yes. And so what I started doing too, based on what you just said, I started having dinner parties once a week to explore this with other people who were interested, and everybody would bring a dish. And I would go to make my dish, and I decided, again, stick in my intuition, feel into who's coming to the party. And I started changing my recipes each time based on who was coming. And so I was a decent cook prior to this, but I didn't get these raving reviews about my food until I started doing it this way. And people would come, oh my gosh, this is a perfect. And they said, oh, I never would have thought to put corn in this. And they said, but I just love it with corn. And I was like, yeah, I never thought to put it in there either until you gave me the idea.
That's
classic. Right. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. I'm anxious for you to go ahead and educate us on what all that means.
Well, I want to hear about daily practices that you teach your clients that we can pass on to the members, of ways that they can improve their personal relationship with food, and then perhaps go into what you were sharing. I've heard your brownie story with the kids, but what you were sharing with that. And look at Cynthia has a question.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you, precious Christine, for sharing that very personal story about your awakening and who you are. Lovely one. Everyone recognize and honor the courage it took her to step up here in public and share that she listens to the voice of God. She recognizes and knows what's important in this world. We bless you, Christine, because you're a wise soul. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Everyone here loves to hear that. Thank you. She's shy, right, Christine? But thank you. We love that. Christine said, I don't know if I should talk about this. I said, let your beautiful self out for everybody, and the right people are here to listen. And so I want to honor you for that. It's insight, and insight comes to us at different times. Insight is an evolution. Insight is something that doesn't happen overnight, but it happens when we become aware of what's going on. Wade is calling me. I'm going to mute and take this call. I got.
To tap onto what she said, it also opens the door for others to share similar experiences. And I feel that especially when somebody on admin who is a leader, they share something that makes them more vulnerable, it allows the members to also feel that confidence to share what's going on for them, because now they don't feel like they're going to be ostracized like the rest of the world often will do to us. I mean, if I shared some of my stuff with even my family, they wouldn't know how to deal with it. They worry about me already. So I want to honor you for that as well, Christine. That was really great that Cynthia shared that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So getting back to like helping the members, what types of things do you feel that you want them to learn how they can increase their relationship with food?
I'm going to tell a story that will get everybody thinking about their relationship with food. I had weight issues for years and years. And no matter what I did, no matter how perfect my diet was, I didn't lose any weight. And that seems insane. And everybody that I talked to, they said, well, you must be cheating. Nope. Because I'm very rigid when I make a plan and I can stick with it. And I went to gluten-free, dairy-free, no sugars, nothing for years because of the MS. I went to a different diet in order to, again, alleviate symptoms, but still never got better, and never lost any weight. And it seems impossible. And then I had a massive heart attack, and I did survive. Hi. Which was unexpected. I was supposed to be a vegetable. They had actually showed my family videos of what I was going to be like before, while I was still there, intubated, because they wanted them to start to prepare for the fact that I would never be the same again. But you know what? It's like Cynthia said, I got to listen. I listened to God. I listened to all my connection to the universe and the whole entire world. And one of the very first things that happened after they took the intubation tube out was they brought me something to eat. And my family is sitting there, and I took a few bites and it was good. And I'd been intubated for days, just, so I was completely depleted, nothing in my stomach. And so I took a few bites and I was full very fast. But guess what I did? And this is what members need to start to be aware about, because I didn't know I did this until I watched myself do it. I'd already had a transition because I'd crossed and come back. And I already knew gluttony was my sin that was causing me not to be able to lose weight. And not gluttony as in I eat too much and I'm too greedy with food, but because I ate for others. So my family was there. And I thought, okay, they're really excited that I'm eating. I'm already full after just 3-4 bites. And I said, but they're so excited and I want them to be happy. I ate more. Right there. Think about this, how our own habits and our beliefs about others around us and how we eat. I remember being a child, eat all this on your plate, even if you're not hungry, just eat it. I didn't realize I've been doing that my entire life. So even when I thought I was hungry, I wasn't actually feeding my own personal hunger. I was feeding the belief of what hunger should look like. And I didn't know that. Remember, I couldn't lose weight. I was eating a perfect diet and still couldn't lose weight. Didn't know I was eating more than my body needed. So I think that's a really important thing for people to start to pay attention to when it comes to food, is how do we get to the place where we can actually know how much our body is asking for versus how much our brain is telling us our body is asking for. And so one of the things I started doing was, with each bite, I'd say, okay, body, do you want this bite? And body would say, yes, give me that bite. Yum. Now I'd eat that bite. And then I would go again. And as soon as my body said no, I'd be like, I'm done. And my brain would be like, but there's more. Eat more. And I'd be like, no, I checked in with the body. So learning to feel your body instead of just listening to what your programs are makes a big difference too. And I started dropping weight really fast. And I wasn't even eating the same strict diet that I was eating before this happened. my diet was more open because people were preparing food for me, and they just wanted to take care of me, and I was letting them. Then the next thing I went to was, we think we can tell our body what it needs, and we think we can just say, well, you're gonna get this healthy diet today, and we're gonna make it, and we make it in advance, and it's ready to go. But what I realized was sometimes my body was telling me no to what I just was making. I was in the process of making a very healthy meal that was really good for my family, and I went to taste it, and my body's like, no, I don't want it. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know my body could do that. But I'd been listening already just about each bite. So now it told me it didn't want that food. And I was like, well, what do I do now? Do I just eat it anyway, or do I not? And I was like, but I made the whole meal. What am I supposed to do? That's another thing, is we can become very habitual in the foods that we choose and think, well, they're healthy, therefore it's what your body wants. But learn to ask your body in each day. Maybe you can have a meal plan. I'm not saying don't make a meal plan, because it still works. It's still a successful thing. But there are some times when my body's like, no, that's not going to benefit us today if we eat that. And so I would go to the fridge. Everybody else was ready to eat what I made. They were still fine with it. They didn't have any dietary issues, so they didn't struggle with it. But for me, because I was struggling, my body was now telling me how to repair itself. Go to the fridge. Okay, I'm looking around. What do I eat, body? I just don't know. Bell peppers. I don't like bell peppers. You'll love them today. Okay, I'm doing bell peppers. And my body was right. Just had to get the brain out of the way. So I can tell you, based on like community, how you grew up with food, what was made. My mother didn't cook with a lot of vegetables, a lot of carbohydrates. So my brain was pre-programmed to say no to a bell pepper. Unless it was a stuffed bell pepper with tomato sauce on top, then I was supposed to eat it, but I didn't like it. Those kind of things when we grow up. And this takes me to the part about how can we unprogram the program that we have. Tracy, do you want to cover anything before we go on with that?
No, I think it's a great segue. And I do like the idea of tuning in, because it's essentially what you're saying is also kind of what Ellen taught a couple weeks ago. And they're a perfect marriage for just checking in with yourself to see what your body needs at that time. And it could be different day by day, meal by meal.
It is. And it can be. You will get to a place once your body's health is improved, where you don't have to work as diligently, where, like Tracy said, well, heck, I just want that piece of cake today. So I would make a meal. Sometimes body would be like, not a no, not a direct no, but a and I'd be like, all right, well, let's just enjoy a little bit of it, because this is really delicious, even, and so you get the space to do those indulgences. But when that's what you're doing all the time, it makes it very difficult. Do we take questions in the middle? I see.
No, I want you to finish, and we can answer Arison's question after. Is that okay, Arison? I just don't want to interrupt her flow.
So let's see, where were we? So we're looking at, listening to the body, eating the food. And then we go back to, again, the communal conditioning, what we've had and the beliefs that we're told. And I have my potato chip story. And this is the way I literally started breaking the food experiences so that I was not having a physical reaction. When I was 8 years old, and it happened to be on Halloween, we were having a quick meal before we went trick-or-treating. And my mom had these rules. And she's a brilliant woman, lovely woman. But again, they're just controlling rules, and it's not me listening to my body. And she would always say, don't eat too many potato chips. Part of it was because we didn't have the money for us to eat a bag of potato chips every day, but part of it was health-wise. So a small handful of potato chips with our carrot sticks and our hamburger for dinner that day. But I took my sister's potato chips that she didn't finish, and I reached in the bag and I got more. and I ate more than I was supposed to eat. Think about that. I ate more than I was supposed to eat. Then we went trick-or-treating, and I wasn't feeling so good, and I started feeling worse and worse. And before I could even get home from trick-or-treating, I was sick on the side of the road with my mom rubbing my back, saying, oh no, you must eat too many potato chips, because that's what was coming out on the ground. And and it locked it in. It locked it in for me that I had a problem with eating potato chips. Now, I'd been eating them my whole life. I'd snacked more than my fair share on more than one occasion and never gotten sick. But this time she was right. That's what it locked in my head. Oh, she was right. I just didn't know she was right. And for years and years and years, I never ate more. And if I did, I got such a stomach ache. So that is a very limiting factor. It's not an actual allergy, but it's definitely a food reaction. And even with healthy potato chips, because I did find healthier potato chips as I got older, making homemade ones, still couldn't eat more than just a handful without starting to feel an upset stomach. And then when I started understanding food better, I set myself a goal to break that. Not because I need to eat more potato chips, but just because of the fact that I knew it was something controlling a situation that seemed out of place. Now, what I didn't share so far is on that day that I got sick, that Halloween, I actually was sick for 4 more days. Turned out I had the flu, but it didn't matter that something was there. My brain locked it in that it was the potato chips, and I didn't let go of that. So here I am. I go and buy the bag of potato chips, Lay's plain potato chips. That's what my mom used to get when we were little. And I'm eating the potato chips and I'm looking at the bag and I'm like, okay, how are we going to break this? Because it's in the thoughts, which puts it in the cells. And I said, I'm going to eat one potato chip at a time. And every time I would start to feel that I wasn't okay, I would go back to recognizing this is a belief that does not serve me. This is a belief that is not mine. This is a control that is inspired by trauma, locked in by trauma. And today I'm out of trauma and I choose to release this belief. That's the basic concept behind this. But what we've been doing in the last few weeks of Key is we've been using transference to help people break these same similar things. And our next Key call on Tuesday, Halloween, we're going to actually go through the process for anyone that wants to join us. The same process we're going to do for fears and phobias can be used for food. So I take a potato chip and I start to feel my stomach hurt. Nope, it's not true. And I sit still until my stomach stops. And I ate another potato chip. Stomach starts to hurt. Nope, it's not true. And I sit until it stops, because what's happening is I'm being triggered and I'm going into a low level fight or flight. I'm going into a triggered state and I'm on guard. And my brain and subconscious are feeding me the beliefs to rescue me, to keep me safe. So chip by chip, I ate the whole bag.
Oh, wow.
And I know, right? And I held a whole bag, mind you, when I couldn't even eat more than a handful. And at the end, still didn't get sick. Didn't have any problems. Didn't get hungry for dinner, but I didn't have any problems. Zero. I broke that day my connection to phobias and fears about food. And whenever anything else comes up, I do it the same way. And there's things that I've been told, oh, because of your health conditions, you can't have this. And I just go through, okay, it can't possibly be true because the body has the power. Now, I want to put a caveat here. I have this in my belief system that this is possible. What you can't do is you can't borrow my beliefs and do the same thing I did without a consequence, unless you truly, truly, truly understand and resonate with what I'm saying. So it's more than just, well, they did it, I can do it. It's more than that. It's the alignment of your entire system. So to get rid of allergies, you have to align your entire system in a specific way that you are the truth of who you are. And that is the power that allows you to break these with just choosing. If you're doing it, but you're not letting go of your belief. See, I let go of the belief that potato chips could make me sick. Because when I had my near-death experience, I heard that, oh, the body can do anything with anything. It's not as restricted as we've been told. But until you reach an elevated understanding of this, the way this natural process of eating healthy is very important. So don't just think I'm saying go out and eat junk. I'm still not saying that. Because when you're When you're in a narrowed focus any other day and you eat something that doesn't align with the truth in your system, you will have a reaction. You will have a consequence. So it's a fine line to walk until you're in the practice. But when you practice this every day, then again, you can eat whatever you want. But as soon as you go into fight or flight, your body goes to the old behaviors, gets those beliefs that are in the brain, and it starts organizing your system with those beliefs, and you will have the consequence. So I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. You can work towards this, but if it's not your truth yet, don't put yourself at risk.
Interesting. That's phenomenal. I would wonder, here's an interesting story to kind of compare it. So I went to a doctor who's a chiropractor who has a certain laser, and I used to get horrible hay fever. And I believe that laser, I'm going to go like this. He would run it along the meridians in your back. So you didn't feel it. It was like an energetic thing, a frequency thing. And he was able to get people not be allergic to things, even peanuts, which are highly allergic. And he helped me with my hay fever because I used to get horrible hay fever, but I did that a few times and boom, I don't get it anymore. So I believe that that's a different way, a different approach, which shows you that everything is frequency.
Yes, and I can actually tie that into what we're talking about too, give you a even more specific understanding. When something is repeating in your life, it's very difficult to eliminate it with what you just said. Whatever you locked in that gave you the hay fever to begin with was no longer repeating. And so when he did that, it worked. And this is why when sometimes you use the method on somebody else and it doesn't work, it's because the item is still repeating. Once you have the cellular structure, you have the memory in the body. I'll give you this other example. It makes it easier for me to explain it. A woman came to me who had 25 years of chronic pain in an ankle. And when we looked at the ankle, it had been broken and mended incorrectly. And she was told it would always hurt. But the chiropractor that had come to my house, this was her mother. And so this is how she said, you got to go see Christine. She's going to get rid of that. And we took a look at it, and it had to do with an experience with her mother, a belief from her mother. Now, her mother had already passed. So when we looked at that belief and she acknowledged that that was something, when she released that belief, it could not reoccur because her mother was not there to be the one to trigger her. So it was gone. So with your hay fever, whatever, put that into your system, the frequency, however you locked it in, must not be there to repeat, and therefore it doesn't come back. So if you can break these things, but when they start to repeat, all you do is hold that space of, no, this is unnecessary. I already know I'm free from it. I'm not allowing this to return. The difficulty can be, though, once you're in that low level, you're on guard and you don't even realize you're there, then you're in a skew. And when you try to repair these things while you're in your skew, you're not going to have the success. When you're in the full expression of yourself, you're completely aligned with your truth, and you work on these things, absolutely, you'll get the same success.
Yeah, and I just want to give a disclaimer to all of you listening, whether you're live or listening to the replay, that this is not medical advice. And if you have an anaphylactic allergy to anything, whether it's peanuts or shellfish like my dad or whatever, I just want to really caution you to not do these approaches without any supervised care. Okay. Because anything that you learn on our calls here on WoW is not a replacement for your qualified medical doctor. And if you have an issue with any, physical ailments or any anaphylactic allergies, that is critical that you work with a professional. And these are, being sick from potato chips or, something else that's like more of a food sensitivity is absolutely different than a anaphylactic true food allergy. So I just want to be very clear here with you guys because it can be really, really dangerous. Okay, understood? So for those people though, Christine, what would you recommend? Like if somebody had, a life-threatening type allergy, how do you address this?
it's a longer process. It's not a simple fix. It really is undoing the system you've put in place that's holding you there. So for me, I have an allergy to honey, and I believe I got that from a bee sting. Now, looking back now, I got a bee sting when I was in a pool. All I did was come up out of the water and I got stung. And so it locked in something traumatic for me. And my mom said, "Oh, you got stung by a bee." I didn't know what had happened, but I knew I was in terrible pain. I was somewhere between 4 and 7. I don't remember how old. And I have an allergic reaction to honey. Extreme stomach aches, like doubled over cramping when there's a certain amount of honey that I ingest, that even if I didn't know it was in the food, it happens. Now, I don't have it anymore, but I still don't eat honey as a habit because I don't know always when I'm in a low level fight or flight. And it is a reaction. So I can hold my system against my allergy, but I don't indulge in it. So I'm allergic to shrimp. Now I can hold my system against it, but that's a concentrated effort. It's a practice that you put in place, that you start small and you work up. So anybody that does have severe allergies, again, you want to do this you want to do it with guidance. You want to do it with looking at your whole story, because my allergic thing with shrimp started when I was small too, because my mother said, "Well, that's all we have." And again, I had a stomach ache that day. Didn't know that I was going to get sick afterwards, got terribly sick, and could not even bring a shrimp to my mouth for years and years. Navy bean soup, still the same story. Loved my mom's navy bean soup. One day got sick, couldn't eat it anymore. Cucumber salad, couldn't eat it anymore. So these are strong reactions that literally I would be sick, have to run to the bathroom for one reason or another. If I ate these things, then I don't have that issue anymore. But when I'm not completely in myself, it can happen.
Wow, so interesting. So you guys, it's already at the top of the hour, but we still need to, if anybody has questions, I know Arison has his hand up for Christine, and Dr. Gloria needs to cover her recipe really quick. It's super simple. But Christine, do you have a few minutes for questions?
Sure.
Yeah. Arison, do you have a question for her? And then also, if you have an assignment for them, like something that they can practice at home this week, that would be really helpful too.
Hi, Christine. My question is,
Hello.
I understood you to say you had a heart attack. Is that right?
A massive heart attack. Yes.
My question is, how old were you at that particular time, and were you a heavy person, or were you at the weight you are now? And was it more or less the foods that you were eating that you were feeding your family?
No, it's a different story than you'd expect. I was 210 pounds, so I was heavier than I am now. I hadn't figured out how to lose weight, couldn't lose weight. I was already looking into spiritual experiences, and I was eating healthy. Let's see, what else did you ask? So 38. I found out after the fact that 2 generations back in my family on my mother's side, that the majority of the family members died between 24 and 34 within a 10-year span of that age, from heart attacks. So there was history in my family for this. But it already skipped 2 generations. Don't know why it had to be mine, other than when I woke up, I got a message and it said, "We're so glad you're here. We're so glad you made it." And that's when the spiritual journey really took off. So I was told that my heart attack happened because I was taking a birth control, which then we found out I had factor V Leiden, which is a blood condition. And again, there's lots of science that says this is why I should have it.
Why I asked that question?
Is there more question that I can answer?
I went to my doctor and had a physical, and every time I'd go everything was fine, great blood pressure and everything. So I said, got a hurting in my chest. I want to take an EKG. So he did, and he set me down. He said, sit over there a few minutes. So he sent it to the cardiologist. Well, I went straight to the hospital right then and had a quadruple bypass. Didn't have a heart attack, just had blockage. And from that point on, I have had 4 cousins that have had heart trouble and have had surgery. And this goes back to my grandfather, our own past, on my mother's side. So I wondered about that.
Yeah, but I'm the only one in my family. The rest of my family hasn't had any problems. Even though hereditary, 2 generations prior, everyone did. But nobody else in my family has had heart issues other than we have weaker veins. The system fails that way, but not the heart itself.
Thank you.
Okay, Christine, do you have a habit or do you have something that they can start working and practicing, a technique that they can work on this week?
Yes, and we're also we're preparing that they'll be able to use too. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a guided process where we can show people how to take a belief about food and alleviate it out of your system by placing it somewhere else in your body. But that'll come later in key. We're not there yet, but it is on our list. So it's good timing that we're having this conversation. So for this week, it's more of an awareness of when you start to feel not your best with the food you're eating, is slow down and think about how are you treating yourself. If you were eating in a rush, and this goes back to that brownie story. If we want to take a second and still share that, Tracy, I don't know if you want to take the time for that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great.
If you slow down and you pay attention to the way you're feeling when you're eating your food and ask yourself, okay, where were my thoughts? Where was my attention? What was my focus on as I was eating this food? And then you can start to break certain behaviors that make you have digestive issues. Now, my brownie story plays along in this, where frequency changes our food. And when you're preparing your food, if you're not in the right state of mind, this is the one thing I would like you to work on this week, is getting into a good place in your thoughts and in your actions before you start touching food. And here's why. My kids, 3 of them were in elementary school, and there was a bake sale, and I was famous for making brownies for these bake sales. And it was a day that I just didn't have any time, and I had forgotten all about the bake sale. And I was like, oh no, the kids will be too disappointed if I don't make these brownies. So I'm rushing, trying to get it done in time. And I'm under quite a bit of stress and pressure, but I'm doing it because I love my kids and I want them to have this, and I don't want them to be disappointed. Make the brownies, take them to the school, leave a couple at home for the kids to have when they get home for their snack after school. They get home, they start eating the brownies, and I'm like just still rushing around because it's a busy day. And they're like, Mom. And I think there's something terribly wrong because they all sound so upset. I'm like, what happened? And they're elementary school. Mothers jump when they're that little too. And they said, what were you thinking when you made these brownies? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? What was I thinking? I said, what difference does it make what I was thinking? I was thinking I love you guys and I wanted you to have them for the bake sale. They say, no, Mom, there's no love in these brownies. And I'm like, what? And then I thought back and I realized, yeah, I wasn't focused on the way I was normally, because when I was a kid, my dad came home and made brownies with us, and it was a really loving experience. And I would always just go to, oh gosh, I just love making brownies. I love that people love my brownies. That's where I normally was when I made brownies. And this day, I just wasn't there. And I always made my brownies from that place. So it was really, really obvious that the frequency I used to make my brownies makes a difference in how they taste and how they impact others. And I didn't even believe the kids when they told me the story. And I went over and tasted the brownie, and oh my gosh, it was so obvious. So obvious. So that's the goal this week, is to put yourself in a good place so that you can get more from your food instead of less.
That makes sense because everything's energy. So we're putting good vibrations in those brownies when you're making them with love. I love that. Awesome. Thank you. So I wrote that down. That's our homework. Get into a good space of mind before preparing any food. Just bring in some peace energy, let go of any stress, make sure you're tuned into your heart space instead of your head space, and just let that transference of love go into the food that you're preparing. Thank you. You're so awesome. And I want to plug Key. If any of you, and I have a feeling most of you guys are a part of Key, it is just so mind bending for me. And I do feel like it gives us a completely different way to look at things that we're presented to in life. And it's a way for us to reprogram our reactions and responses to stressful situations. So it just gives us that reframing technique. So thank you so much, my dear, for sharing all of this. And now I need to turn it over to Dr. Gloria, who was awfully quiet today. I was expecting a lot more interaction with Christine from you, Missy.
But Christine is so interesting that I didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
Christine, that was amazing. Thank you. And I can relate to what you're saying. The recipe for tomorrow is going to be, how many of you, before I tell you that, how many of you have actually had chocolate mousse made with avocado? Oh my goodness, nobody. This is going to be great. It's a chocolate mousse, and my favorite dessert is chocolate mousse or tiramisu. Well, of course, I can't have that as a diabetic, and I've tried to make it with gluten-free, lady fingers, and all that doesn't work. This one can be made in less than, what was it, 2 minutes, Tracy?
Yeah.
In her high-speed blender, or you can use any kind of a blender, even a little. When I traveled, I was telling the story to Tracy, I would carry my little, what do you call the little one?
Bullet?
Put upside down? Like a bullet, yes. And it's literally avocados. They have to be ripe enough that you can put them in your blender. Heavy cream if you can have dairy. If not, you can use coconut milk or almond milk. The sweetener of choice, which is stevia or monk fruit. Do not use a liquid because it makes it like a milkshake. It doesn't make it like a mousse. You want the consistency of a chocolate mousse. A really nice, thick, when you put the spoon into it, it doesn't just dump off the spoon. And then a little bit of vanilla. And it sounds so simple, but I have served it to chefs when I was in South America. And only one out of all the people I taught said, this is avocado. And I think it's because they didn't put enough cream. So there was too much of the avocado taste. Either that or the avocado was larger and they should have put more cream to begin with. Okay. So that's going to be your recipe tomorrow. And it is amazing. Do not put your nose up at it because Christine, it's got avocados, but, but it is absolutely delicious. And the fun part about it is if you have company unexpectedly, or you forgot to do the dessert, 2 minutes in a blender or a bullet, and you've got dessert. It's better if you can make it the night before and refrigerate it. You can top it with anything you want, homemade whipped cream, some little raspberries or strawberries cut up, or you can actually put some strawberries in it and make it a strawberry chocolate mousse, which I like. But that's what our recipe is going to be tomorrow, and then you'll be able to see us. And what I loved was Tracy's expression when she tried it, because she had never had it. So none of you have had it that are on the call right now? Nobody's raising their hand?
Kelly's raising her hand.
You can't. Well, figures Kelly would have it.
It's so rich
Kelly
and
shares a lot of
decadent.
those secrets with me.
You guys, it's so rich
It
and
is.
so decadent. It's amazing.
I actually don't like the avocado mousse myself, which is crazy because I love avocado. I love chocolate mousse, but for some reason, I've never been able to get the recipe to taste where I can't taste the avocado and it just kind of ruins it for me. So for me, what I actually do is I use mascarpone cheese instead, which is
oh my God, that's delicious.
So I make it that way, but I have had it with the avocado. Maybe I'll try your recipe.
But see, Kelly, by using, and I'll try yours because by using mascarpone, she's got a good point. It is a stronger flavor, right? It's a more in-depth flavor, and it would definitely mask the avocado if you're not real hip about tasting the avocado. So that's a great one. My next thing that I'm attempting right now is tiramisu with that as a filling and then some gluten-free ladyfingers. So stay tuned. That's coming up. I just haven't had time to to fix it and experiment enough to give you the, I cook like Tracy. I mean, like my mother did. Cynthia said something about that. I think a dash, a pinch, I have to measure it now, even though I have all my recipes perfected so that I can tell you exactly what to do. So I hope you enjoy it. And next week, I hope to hear from you after you've had it so that we know how everything is going and how you're enjoying it. Okay. And thank you again for today's presentation. It was amazing. Thank you so much, Christine.
She has a question or a comment.
Actually, I want to comment because I didn't wrap up and let you guys know that I got rid of my aversion to avocado. And the way I did it was my partner now eats avocado. And every time he would eat avocado, I would take one bite. And I did that for 3 or 4 months, taking one bite because he loved it. And I started after 3 or 4 months, I would go to eat something and be like, oh, that'd be good with avocado. And it was my brain and my body were now accepting that it's good for me, for my system, and in a very beautiful way. So that's another process we can talk about another day as well.
Okay,
awesome.
Christine, your homework assignment is to make it and let us know how you like it.
Yeah, it's
that's
so
your homework
good.
assignment.
Arison has another question.
Okay.
She didn't really tell how many avocados to use.
Oh,
that's
2.
Because the recipe comes out tomorrow.
2.
Yeah. Usually 2 pretty ripe ones. Yeah. Yeah. And that's enough. Arison, that's a good comment. That's enough in the recipe to make it for about 4 people. So 4 little dishes of a regular little dessert dish, a little what am I trying to say? A little ramekin. That would be enough for 4 people. So if you make it the night before if you can, but they do have everything else you can just put in right away, but they need to be not mushy, but they need to be soft enough as if you were going to use it for guacamole. Okay. If they're hard, it won't be the same. They have a little bit of a bitter taste if they're hard, but that's a good question. Thank you.
And
again,
Dr. Gloria,
thank you, Christine. I want to know about your homework.
Mm-hmm. Can you please share the monk fruit that you use that has no erythritol in it?
Well, you didn't tell me that. I'd have to get the brand, but didn't we get the link from
Let's do it
Amazon?
Tomorrow. Y'all gonna do a cooking show, right?
Well, here's what we'll do, you guys. I will post a link to the monk fruit for this recipe.
Monk fruit.
Put it in the avocado. We'll add it to the avocado pudding recipe because it's hard to find. And so she can just put it in the PDF or on the blog. Okay. So
and here's the difference is that if it has erythritol, it causes a lot of GI problems in a lot of people, me included, and Tracy too. So we have to be careful. It's an alcohol. So that alcohol happens to really trigger GI symptoms in a lot of people. So I stay away from it. So Tracy will help you with that. She and I already looked at the link I got mine on Amazon. So they didn't have it locally. Everything had erythritol. So I had to get it from Amazon.
Okay. So I'll have Peggy
Tracy.
put that on the recipe because it gives me a stomach ache as well. Any erythritol, I cannot eat it. So, it's pretty bad. Either. All right. It's a wrap, you guys. Thank you. Thank you so much, Christine, for your beautiful words of wisdom. I love learning from you. You guys need to check out Key if you want more of that angelic voice and all of her just intuitive wisdom. It's beautiful. I never miss a week. So you guys have a beautiful week. Thank you for coming. And you want to hear what's on the agenda for next week really quick? I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. I don't have it up. Oh, well, I will definitely share it with you guys when I share the replay. And I usually have way too many tabs open. And but I'll share it when I share the replay. Actually, I just found it really quick. Hold on. So we have a tip on how to make your garden. We have a doctor who lives in Hawaii, and she is a massive agriculture woman. That's why she's there. And she can teach us how to make our garden vegetables or anything that we grow at home more nutrient dense and more energetic and better for our body. So I have a feeling, knowing our members, that it's going to be pretty awesome. So we'll see you guys next week for that. And thank you, Cynthia, for joining us. Thank you all. Have a beautiful day. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Okay.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
all. Thank
Bye
you,
for now.
Christine.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you,
That was
Dr.
great.
G. Thank you,
So much.
Tracy.
Tracy.
Bye, y'all. Love you.
Love you
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.